Hey, thanks for tuning in. This wildlife relief carving is called Rocky Bottom Bass. Lately I've been carving a lot of whitetail deer, so with it being ice fishing season, I thought it was a good time to try carving a fish of some kind. I wanted the design to be simple, but yet have the opportunity for depth and detail. During the sketching phase, I initially had seaweed drawn instead of the log, but I decided against it because I felt it might take too long to carve. I wanted this project to take me around 15 hours to complete. After it was all said and done, that's about how many hours I put into it. I started off this carving a bit different than some of my others. In the past, I've removed the background with a router, but with this project I made multiple passes with the largest gouges I have. Because this design is really only one layer, and then the background, I had a lot of freedom of depth and could go as deep as I wanted without messing anything up. I really enjoyed this part of the project, carving the rocks. I didn't have any precise plan of how I wanted them to look. I just went ahead and started carving the rocks and made adjustments as I went. The only thing I had to make sure to do was to taper the bottom of the log back into the carving so then I'd have enough wood to give the rocks in front some depth. I also needed to make sure my gouges were sharp because I didn't want to do any sanding to the rocks after they were finished. I wanted the rocks to maintain those sharp and rigid edges, which might be lost if any sanding was needed. Carving the bass I felt was relatively straightforward. I wanted it to appear as though it was behind the log and approaching the viewer at an angle, so I tapered its shape back into the carving in order to give it that look. I then just rounded the edges and carved the fins at the depth that matched. I ran into a couple roadblocks when carving the mouth and eye area. I was having a difficult time carving to my reference photo I was looking at. I ended up just kind of winging the mouth and going with what made sense, adding some necessary detail but leaving out some that I just wasn't confident in or didn't feel was important. The bass's eye was another roadblock. I ended up redoing the eye a couple of times and eventually went with a simple design that I felt fit the carving well in the end. The scales were the last and final step in the carving. I really went back and forth on whether to do them or not because I was so happy with the look of the simplistic design I had. I ended up talking to my family and posting the question on Reddit. The overall majority of people wanted the scales carved, so that's what I ended up doing. The last thing I did was whittle a tiny lure that will be dangling in front of the bass from fishing line. I thought this was a cool addition to the project that really finished it off nicely.